Okay, and I will turn up my music a little bit. So hopefully you can hear that okay. But so we're doing hips today. So we're gonna really work into those and really focus on them. And I think it's mostly just hips actually. I did a lot of hips today for some reason. So you can start on your back, and if you'd like to have any blankets or any socks or anything as well, feel free to wear those now that the weather's changing for some of us. So, and then you can lay down on the back and just start to get cozy. Start to allow the body to come onto the mat, and let the hands come up to face the roof. And start to breathe in and out through the nose. With each inhale, allowing the body to inflate, and each exhale, allowing it to melt down onto the earth. Just starting to feel everything getting rested, feeling supported. Breathing in and out through the nose, beginning to observe the breath. Watching it as it passes through the nasal cavity and into the throat, down through the chest, and into the belly. Start to watch the belly rise and fall. And just take note of what's happening in the body. Is there anywhere that's feeling tightness, stiffness, soreness? Just direct the breath there and try to release into it. Long, deep inhales and exhales. Starting to just do a quick body scan, starting at the feet. Just feeling everything getting softer, starting with the toes. Keep breathing in and out to this area. Feeling the feet starting to relax, and the heels getting heavy on the floor. Begin to feel the glutes releasing, the thighs releasing, the knees lifting, calves releasing, everything in the low body just starting to get really soft, heavy on the floor. Stay consistent with the breath. Keep sending it to any areas of tightness, just inflating and exhaling, releasing. Watching the pelvis get heavier. As the inhales, you feel the belly rise. And on the exhales, you feel the low back begin to release. You feel the shoulders rolling back and the chest expanding. The arms may be shifting a little bit wider. Keep drawing the breath in and inflating everything up. Exhaling, letting it go. Feeling the fingertips maybe curling in slightly as the palm of the hand gets nice and soft and light. Keep breathing into these spaces. Notice the tension. Allow it to dissolve. As you inhale, the chest expands. You feel the shoulder blades connect to the earth. You feel the head heavy on the floor. And as you exhale, the neck begins to release little by little. Keep allowing that sensation of groundedness. Feeling the back of the skull connected to the earth. Start to feel that sensation moving into the forehead, softening everything as it goes. Feeling any lines, wrinkles, concentration faces. Just slowly fading away. Begin to draw the attention between the eyes. Just feel that space softening, unfurrowing the brow, letting the face be nice and soft. You feel the space behind the eyes and the muscles surrounding the eyes start to release. Feel the whole face starting to descend into relaxation, and maybe the mouth parts slightly, with the tongue resting just behind the teeth along the gum line. Keep breathing in and out here, feeling the jaw relax, allowing that space in front of the ears and behind the ears to release. Continue allowing yourself, giving permission to melt onto the floor, breath by breath. Taking note of any feelings and emotions that may be occurring. Just allowing them to pass through you. Inhaling new energy and exhaling out stagnant energy. Keep finding the breath and staying here, waiting for the body to give you cues, moving out of the mind and into the body. If any thoughts creep up, any sensations, emotions, just remind yourself that it's normal and temporary, and breathe it out, knowing it will pass. And slowly we'll just begin to bring some brief awareness back into the body, wiggling the toes and fingers, just adding some slight movement. Maybe starting to rotate the ankles and the wrists, and turning the head from side to side. And from here, you can just draw the knees into the chest, just using the hands to grab below the knees and onto the shins, rolling the shoulders back to keep the spine nice and long. Just stay here and breathe into the belly, allowing that gentle compression into the hip joints. Stay here for a few breaths, just allowing the body to get used to the posture. And maybe with the exhales, when things open up, you can draw the knees a little closer to the armpits. Keep the breath steady. Try to keep the fingers soft. Keep the shoulders rolled back. Just acknowledge if there's any tension that you're carrying in the mouth. Try to release it. Let it pass. On the exhale, maybe testing to see if you can draw the knees a little closer. We'll just stay here for a couple more breaths. And then slowly release the legs back down to the ground and just take a moment to acknowledge the sensation happening in the hip flexors. Whether or not there's a clearing force of energy there, cooling sensation, as the blood rushes back to replenish the compressed area. And then slowly, slowly, just bring the left arm behind the head. We're going to turn onto the left side of the body, just using the left arm as a pillow. And just staying here. Breathing in nice and deep. And just have to make an adjustment on the camera, so just maintain that softness for a little longer. And then slowly, in your own time, you can come up to seated position, and we'll just come into Vidrasana. So sitting on top of the heels. You can place the hands on top of the thighs and roll the shoulders back. Just sit up nice and tall. Continue breathing in long, deep breaths here. Maybe keeping the eyes closed if that feels nice. And then from here, we're going to come into a wide-legged child's pose. So you're going to spread the knees pretty wide, not quite as far wide as we would in the frog posture, but just so that the knees are pointing towards the sides of the mat. And then from here, you're going to walk the hands forward, placing the hands in the center and reaching, and then try to bring the chest and the head down. We're starting to get into the hips. So move slowly and wait for things to open up. Keep pressing back through the hands and sending the hips on top of the feet. And then stay here. Keep breathing deep into the posture. Waiting for the hips to open. If the pose is opening for you, you can press back a little further. Always trying to keep the butt low. Just feeling that space in the hip flexors and in the groin. Breathing in here, exhaling it out. Keep the facial expression soft. And slowly you can lift the head, but keep the hands where they are. And then start to walk the left arm out to the left side. And then see if you can reach the right arm on top of it. And then send back into the hips again. You can also have the hands flat on the floor if it's not comfortable to have the hands stacked. You want to keep pressing into the hands, sending the side of the body nice and long, and sinking through the hips. Long, deep breaths here. Keep pressing back. Inhale to inflate the spaces of tightness, and exhale to release into it. Keep reaching through that right side of the body. Keep the face soft. Just a few more breaths here. And then lift the head, only the head, just keep the hands where they are. And then walk the hands back to center. Take an inhale and press back through the hands to sink the hips one last time. We'll stay here for too long. Just keep breathing into the posture. And just notice if it feels like there's now an imbalance in the body. It may feel like you're leaning more to one side than the other, even though the arms are straight. Just keep breathing into it, and we're going to correct that sensation. So now walk the hand over to the right, and then do the same thing on the opposite side. Stretch through the right side of the body and sink back into the hips. Try to keep the face soft, the muscles relaxed. And if the body allows you to go deeper, try to just push back a little more, keeping the arms extended. Keep the breath steady and long. Keep sinking back. Just a few more breaths here. And then slowly lift the head and walk the hands back to center. Place the weight back in the hands and push back one last time. And lengthening through the upper body and really breathing into that area of tightness. Just feeling any sensations and any emotions that are coming up. We're into the hips, so it's not uncommon for things to come up. Just breathe through it. Keep going. And then slowly you come out, you come onto the forearms, and you start to walk the hands back, nice and slow. You may feel it in the sides of the body and the triceps as well. When you get to a seated position, very, very, very slowly, put the hands a little bit wider, and then start to move the hips back, or the knees towards center, and come back to your Vajrasana. And then sit up nice and tall. And then from here, we're just gonna stay in Vajrasana for a couple more breaths. Breathe deep into the belly. If it feels okay, you can start to lean back just to get into the upper thighs a little bit more while you're here. Breathing in nice and deep. And then slowly, if you want to have a pillow, we're going to get into some lunges and some dragons. So you can have the pillow underneath the knee if the floor is a little bit hard. So the first one we're going to do is just come into your first lunge. So the knee is at 90 degrees, and you start to press forward from the left glute, leaning into the hips and sinking forward. You're sitting up nice and tall to begin. And as the pose opens, you may be able to start to sink a little bit lower. But wait for it to open, especially after doing those wide-legged child's pose. The hip flexor is now working in the opposite direction. Instead of being compressed, we're now lengthening it. So it may take some time to open. Just breathe through it. And remember that if anything is coming up, that's normal. Just try to observe your reaction and modify to a way that you can find peace and calmness. Being mindful with your reaction and deliberate in what you will do in your action, you may be able to start to come forward more. Maybe starting to sink a little deeper. But again, first being intuitive, listening to the body first before the mind. The mind will try to push you, and the body may put up resistance. Listen to the body. Keep the breath steady and long. Send the breath deep into the belly and into the hips, and exhale it all out. And then if things are developing, you can bring that right hand to the inside of the foot and wiggle that right foot out and expose the sole of the right foot by rotating the right thigh open. From here, you want to sink forward into the hips, and then maybe play with being able to lower, possibly coming onto the forearms. If not, just go wherever you can and stay there as long as there's no pain. Just keep breathing into it nice and deep. Take long, continuous, full breaths. Try to keep everything else soft, the face, the hands, all the muscles in the body. Finding that cleaning feeling. As you cleanse toxins, emotions, thoughts, frustrations out of the body. Keep the mouth soft, the face soft. Just a few more breaths. And then to come out, place the weight back into the hands and slowly come up. Keep the leg where it is. If it's available, you can try to come into twisted dragon. So in order to do that, you keep the leg open and exposing the foot. The left hand comes to be your support. The right hand reaches behind you, and maybe you bend and you might or may or not be able to reach the foot. I'm not there today, so I'm just going to twist and open up and put my arm on the low back and keep sinking into the hips. Keep breathing here, sinking downward. Try to relax the head as well, not putting strain on the neck. And then slowly just rotate back to center. Hand comes back to the inside. We get back to our inline. The right hand comes to the outside of the foot. We wiggle the right foot back in and sink into the lunge for just a couple more breaths. Exhale it all out. And then slowly come out, place the right knee back on the mat. And we're gonna do the same on the opposite side. But take a moment if you need here just to feel the difference in the legs. So you may even wanna return to Vajrasana just for a moment, just to experience what's happening on the hips and the inside of the body. And then when you're ready, we'll take the opposite side. So first sitting up nice and tall and just maybe opening up through that right hip flexor first. With that twist, you may feel a bit of a different sensation. So working into the posture nice and slow. Sitting up nice and tall, pushing forward with the glute into the hip flexor. Opening up. Making sure that that knee is at 90 degrees as you sink the hips forward. As things open up, you may be able to start to sink a little bit deeper. Maybe even placing the hands on the ground. Coming into that deep lunge. Let's dig deep into the body and find out what's happening. Do you feel a cooling sensation? Do you feel calmness? Do you feel hot? Is there a pulling, tension, tightening? Listen to the body and respond accordingly. If it allows you to go deeper, go deeper. If it's giving you signals to back off, back off. Keep releasing tension from the face, releasing it from the hands. Being mindful of the thoughts and emotions that are flowing through you. And know that that's just what they are. It's just a flow. They come, they go. They circle back again, and that's normal. If the posture is opening up, we're getting ready to go deeper into the sleeping dragon by wiggling that left foot out to the side and exposing the sole of the left foot. As long as everything is okay in the knees and there's no pain anywhere, you can start to shift the weight forward and start to sink, maybe even onto the forearms. Come down just as low as possible, holding. Keep releasing tension in the jaw, in the mouth. And try to get both hands on the floor evenly. Just a few more breaths here. And slowly raising up first onto the hands. And then keeping that foot where it is. If you want to experiment with the twist, you can. The right hand becomes your kickstand. Left hand reaches behind. Maybe you reach for the foot, maybe not. If you can't quite reach it, you can always place the hand on the low back and just twist open. Keep breathing here nice and deep. Try not to put strain on the neck, so if it's better, you can have the head looking down as well. Whichever is better for you. Exhale, left hand comes back to the center. Sit up nice and tall. Wiggle that left foot in, replace the left hand to the side, and move back to your lunge. Keep breathing in nice and deep here, refueling those muscles, allowing the blood to flow by oxygenating it. And then slowly we're going to release back to Madrasana just for a breath or two. So sink the hips back on the feet and sit up nice and tall, lengthening the spine. Just breathe here. And now we're going to do another compression of the hips. So we're going to come into frog pose. So the way to come into frog is very similar to what we were doing with the child's pose, but you want to see if you can take the knees even wider. You bring the feet together. You send the knees as wide as possible. So you can almost get them in like the half split. And then from here, you're going to start to walk down to see about bringing the chest down to the floor. If this is really uncomfortable, you can always do the half version with the one leg extended and then just melting forward. Whichever one you choose is fine. And then exhale, just fold down into it. Sinking deep into the hips again. Maybe even stacking the fists to place underneath the forehead. With each exhale, try to imagine the pelvis lowering down onto the floor. So keep the breath flowing. Send it nice and deep into any of those areas you're experiencing tension. Keep the face soft. Maybe you find that the knees can spread a little wider. If that's the case, explore that. Try to keep the mouth nice and soft. Don't clench the jaw. Don't clench the hands. Try to find softness and continue breathing. Just a few more breaths here. And then slowly place the hands back into the floor and push up nice and slow. Once you walk the hands back toward the pelvis, very gingerly start to bring the knees back in nice and slow and feel that sensation. Sit up again nice and tall in Vajrasana and sink back onto the heels. Breathe in deep. Let the blood recirculate. Then we're going to come into deer. So for this one, it's similar to how you get into pigeon. The first leg is going to be bent in kind of a square shape, and the back leg is going to be bent similar to what mine is right here. From this position, try to get the shin parallel to the front of the mat, and the back leg can just go wherever's comfortable as long as it's not hurting on the ankles. If you have more flexibility in the groin, you can draw that knee back a little bit, sit up nice and tall, and then from here, provided that there's no strain on the knee, you start to fold forward over that front leg. And just make any adjustments in that left hip. So if you feel that the knee is too far out, feel free to bring it back. And just breathe nice and deep. If the mind is getting distracted, just redirect it back to the breath. And then slowly start to rise up. And then we're going to swing that left leg over. So I'm just going to shift so you can see me. So you're from here, you're in the deer posture. Just bring that leg a little bit closer and then start to draw the right knee so that it's in line with the right hip. So it's a nice straight line. From here, lift the left leg and cross it over and try to come into shoelace. Sit up nice and tall, hands on the knees. First sinking into the hips, trying to get both sit bones nice and even. You may need to adjust the right foot so that it doesn't, so that you can get both sit bones evenly on the ground. Sit up nice and tall. And if it's in your practice, you can bring the left hand behind the body and cross the right arm over the body, just coming into a gentle twist here and getting a little deeper into that left glute. And look over the left shoulder. And then just come back to center and sit up nice and tall again. Keep sinking down through the hips, rooting down onto the floor. Exhaling it all out. If you want to take this pose a little deeper, you can start to shift the weight forward, maybe bringing the hands to the floor and the head to the knee, or wherever's comfortable for you. If it's not there, you can just continue sitting up nice and tall. With each exhale, maybe you can sink a little lower. Otherwise, just stay where it feels good. There's no pain. Keep the breath flowing. Keep everything soft. Moving intuitively as the body allows. And then slowly we're going to start to sit up nice and slow. Again, taking a moment, just sitting at the top and letting the hips sink into the floor. And then exhale, just lean the hands over the right. We're going to unwind. So move really slowly, maybe even wiggling the feet. You want to have this really deliberate, intentional movements. And then just wiggle out the left leg and then wiggle out the right. Just maybe shake them from side to side and observe that sensation of the blood returning, free flowing once again. And then we're going to come to the opposite side. So we're going to start in deer. So we first bring that left shin forward. And then the back foot is again 90, or you keep that knee bent, just where it kind of feels comfortable for you, the foot behind you. Try to sit up nice and tall first. And then start to sink forward. Just like we do in pigeon. And try to figure out what's stopping you. And try to, whatever that is, try to lengthen the breath as long as it's not pain or anatomical restriction. Anatomical restriction usually means bone-on-bone connection. It means that it's not a flexibility issue and it's not a lengthening of the muscle or the joint. It just means that you've met the end of that journey in that pose. And the body will send signals of fire or pins and needles, numbness, sharpness. If it's just a dull, aching sensation of a stretch though, try to find out what's stopping you. Try to calm the mind and wait for it to open for you. And just a couple more breaths here. And slowly lift the hands, walking them back. And we're going to shift over, again, coming into our shoelace. So just make sure that that left knee is in line with the left hip. And then begin to cross the right leg over the body and stack the knees. And then wiggle that left foot forward. And again, sitting up nice and tall first, letting both sit bones come even onto the floor. Breathing in nice and deep into that right glute. You may have to shift that left foot forward a little bit. And sit down nice and even. Again, in the practice, we always ask ourselves, what's stopping us Is it anatomical restriction, or is it just tension? And the flip side of that, you can always ask yourself, what drives us? Is it that the body is opening up and it's prepared to go deeper? Or is it the ego? The yin practice really provides the opportunity to go inward, to decide, and to observe oneself and one's actions. And then if it's in your practice, you can reach the right hand behind you and bring the left hand to the thigh, cross over, sinking that right hip down and looking over the right shoulder, really getting into the glute and the hip. And then exhale, just slowly return back to center. Sit up nice and tall again, letting the hips sink down. Keep sending the breath into the glute and into the hips. If the pose is opening and you can take this deeper, you can always shift the weight forward, maybe bringing the hands to the floor or the head to the knee. Just moving in your own body, waiting for it to open up nice and easily. Keep the breath steady and calm. Maybe with the exhale, seeing if maybe it's possible to sink a little further. And then slowly we're going to sit back up nice and tall. Just letting both sit bones get nice and even on the floor. Really sinking down through both sit bones. And then exhale, release the hands to the side. And then slowly unwind the legs, moving them nice and slow and deliberately. And then taking them both for some movement. Maybe wiggling them back and forth, bending the knees and straightening them. Whatever feels good. And then from here, you can sit up on your pillow if you like. We're just going to come forward into butterfly. So keeping the spine tall to begin with, and just coming into long-legged butterfly. So we're going to do the two variations. So first shape is the diamond, where you can have blocks underneath if it's hard for you to let the hips open and the thighs release. So first we sit up nice and tall. We get into the position where the thighs start to relax. Breathing in deep to the groin and the thighs. As things start to open up and develop, you can then, as long as there's no pain in the low back, if there's pain or any back issues like sciatica or osteoporosis, keep the spine straight and hinge from the hips. If not, you can begin to tuck the chin and start to round through the spine and start to bring the head towards the feet. And again, if there's any pain in the low back, back off and come into a straight spine. Otherwise, just hang out here, seeing if with each exhale, maybe it's possible to come a little deeper. Keep breathing into the hip joints. With every exhalation, allowing the body to melt a little further. Try to keep the mouth soft and the eyes soft. Maybe even closing the eyes if that's better. And just a few more breaths here. And then slowly start to drag the hands up the legs. And lengthening, rolling the shoulders back. And then from here, just come back to your tabletop briefly. You can have the pillow nearby or put it off to the side. Excuse me. So place the hands on the floor, and we're just going to lift up for a down dog. Just send the heels down to the floor and let the head get long, the spine get long and the head get heavy. You can play with pedaling out the feet here if you like. Then you're going to trap that right knee behind the right elbow and come into pigeon. So start to wiggle that left foot back. And you may want to place a pillow underneath the right glute and thigh. And it might feel good to sit up nice and tall and sink through the hips before you start to send downwards. You can get into a little bit of the low back here. If this is feeling good and you're ready to go further, you can start to sink deep into the hips, extend the spine, and then walk the hands forward. Getting into the right glute and into the inner hips and thigh. If you don't want to come all the way down, you can prop the head in the hands. And just stay here. Keep breathing deep into the belly. Into any of these areas where there may be restriction. Just hold. Try to allow softness everywhere else in the body. Using the breath to inflate and the exhale to move into the created space. And then very slowly start to rise up, placing the weight into the hands. And then maybe come up to sit up nice and tall in pigeon and look up again. Again, just working into the low back a little more. Breathing in deep to wherever's tight. And then slowly wiggling that left foot forward. And then we're gonna just step back to down dog. So lifting up nice and slow, and then gingerly placing that right foot down on the floor. And just maybe pedaling it out and feeling what's happening in the body. Feeling that blood flow return. Just feeling if there's any imbalances in the body. And then slowly we'll do the opposite side. So track the left knee behind the left elbow. And then start to wiggle that right foot back. And then maybe place a pillow or something underneath the glute to begin with. And sit up nice and tall and start to sink into the hips. Breathe in nice and deep here. Getting into the low back slightly as well, with maybe a little bit of a back bend. If things are starting to open for you, you can begin to sink into the hips, lengthen the spine, and start to roll down. Try to remain everything else soft, the mouth and the fingers, the head, the eyes. And soften into that glute and into the hip. Keep the breath steady. With each exhalation, maybe seeing if it's possible to melt a little more. And staying for a few more breaths. And then slowly pressing the weight into the hands and then walking the hands back to the perineum. And then sitting up nice and tall, sinking the hips down and maybe coming into a gentle back bend. And then slowly just wiggling that right foot in a little bit. Then we're gonna get ready to press back to our down dog. Step in and then slowly lift that left leg and then step it back into your down dog. Maybe pedal out the legs or move them around or even hold that left calf down or left heel down. That can feel quite nice. And then bend the knees and come back to Vajrasana. So we're gonna do another pose just to continue working into the sacral region of the body. So from here, you're gonna get into Vajrasana and you're gonna start to lean back. So from here, we're gonna start by working into the tops of the ankles and the upper thighs first. So lean back as far as possible. We'll just stay here holding on to the upper thigh, stretching that area. Breathing deep into that space. And exhaling it out. And since we were here earlier today, we're gonna move a little bit quicker through these until we get to the final part. The next step is, if you're feeling pretty flexible in the thighs and you wanna get into the tops of the ankles and the feet, you can start to lift the knees. As long as there's no pain in the knees or the ankles or anywhere else. Start to roll back. And then bring the knees back down. The next step is we're gonna start to come into hero to get into the upper thigh region again and the psoas muscles. So you can place a pillow between the legs if you like. You can have the knees close together. And again, if there's any pulling on the knees or if there's any pain anywhere, just don't bother with this pose, come back to Vajrasana. You may need to shift the calf from underneath the thigh just to get a little bit more working space. And again, watch the ankles as well. So if you have any ankle pain, just be wary of this one and be careful. So Jennifer, just make sure you watch that ankle. From here, lift up nice and tall. And then you can start to walk the hands back, and maybe you have blocks as well. So if you find you get stuck in one place, you can use the blocks to hold you up. However, if the pose is opening for you, you may find that you can come down to the forearms, or maybe even completely all the way down and just hold. Again, if you come too far and you need to back off, back off. It's not worth getting injured over. Just a few more breaths in this posture. And then slowly make your way back up. And we'll just roll back to tabletop. And then we stayed on top of the feet for some time now. So you may want to extend the one calf back and just shift from forward to backward, moving into the ankle. Maybe even rotating the foot around. Just feeling that blood flow again. You can bend the knee as well, that can feel quite nice. And then just return back to your table and just do the same on the opposite leg. Just go forward and backward. And again, maybe pointing the toes and wiggling the ankles around. And then from here, we're just gonna come onto the back. And do we have time for that one? So if you have a block handy, have the block nearby. You come onto the back. And if you don't have a block, you can just use a pillow. If you do have a block, you can choose this height you want to have it on. So you can have it on the high height, the highest height, which I wouldn't recommend unless you're quite flexible in the low back. You can do it on the middle, or you can do it on the lowest side. So you're going to put the feet near the glutes and press up with the heels, and then place the block on the flat region of the sacrum. So just above the glutes, but not into the low back. So just on that spot of the pelvis where it's nice and flat. The shoulders are going to get heavy, and the hands can just come up to the face of the ceiling, or they can rest on the belly or behind the head, wherever's comfortable. If this is enough for you and you're getting compression in the low back, you can stay here. Otherwise, you can start to think about extending the legs down. Just really feeling into that compression, into the low back. And stay here. Breathing in nice and deep. Again, if there's any discomfort or pain, just come out. Leave the face nice and soft. Keep the breath steady. And try to relax the glutes if you have the legs extended. And just a couple more breaths. If the legs are extended, just slowly walk them back towards the glutes. And then lift up the pelvis and just remove the block. And slowly place the pelvis back down on the floor. And just take a breath or two here to just recalibrate. Feel the pelvis heavy on the floor. And then draw the knees into the chest. The exhales, maybe see about drawing them a little closer to the armpits. And if it's available for you, you can reach up to try and come into happy baby. Letting the thighs come onto the chest. If you can't reach happy baby, you can have the hands behind the knees or at the ankles or on the feet. Or just holding onto the shins, whichever works for you. From here, it might feel nice to lengthen the legs. Just play around with it. And it can feel extra nice too, keeping that spine nice and long, to just rock from side to side. You can really get a nice massage into the back here. Another option too is if you want to massage the length of the spine, is you can just let go of the feet and place the hands behind the knees and point the toes. You can lift the shoulders and chin and just rock front to back. Just massaging the length of the spine. And then just draw the knees back into the chest. And then maybe take some circles, maybe bringing the knees all the way down to the floor if it's possible. And just getting really into the side of the low back. Massaging out this area. You can also get into the hip too if you rotate far enough onto the side and you hit that spot correctly. But it just takes a matter of time of figuring out that movement and where it is for you and how the circle works. So you just have to play with it. It's much like the rest of yoga, it's just based on experience. Practice of yoga isn't something that can be taught to you, it has to be experienced. And just make sure you go the other way as well. And then just draw the knees back into the chest and keep the spine nice and long. Lift the chin up and just give yourself a nice hug. If it's possible and you have the flexibility, you might be able to reach for the outsides of the feet and bringing the knees in. I'm just making that nice tuck. And then exhale. Release the right foot down to the floor. And we'll just come into our gentle spinal twist. Look over that left shoulder. Breathing in nice and deep here, feeling everything softening. Maybe closing the eyes. Exhaling it all out. Staying here for a couple more breaths. Keep inflating any areas of tightness. Exhaling it out as we stimulate the internal organs. And then slowly rotate back to center. And then extend the left leg down to the side. And then just do the same. Maybe the spinal twist again. Looking over that right shoulder. Just a couple more breaths here. And then slowly come back to center and just make any last minute adjustments that you need before we take Shavasana. If you're prepared to come directly into Shavasana, you can start to spread the legs to the sides of the mat and let the feet fall up to the side. Roll the hands open and feel the shoulders fall backwards. Stay here with the eyes closed and just start to redirect the focus back onto the breath. Watching it coming in and out of the body. Feeling into the body for any areas it may have changed. Just doing a brief reflect, observing. Noting if there was a change of state of mind and body. And cultivating a sense of appreciation for yourself. For taking the time to step away from a chaotic world and into a place that you can control. They often say that yoga is like an island. If you don't bring it, you won't find it. So to reach the place of serenity and calmness, it's found within. It's not found externally. You're feeling the body sinking down. It's breathing out anything that's not required. Feeling softness coming into the feet, through the toes, through the soles of the feet, the ankles, the shins, the calves. Feeling the knees lifting and the thighs releasing, the hamstrings relaxing, and the glutes softening, feeling the pelvis getting nice and heavy. Continue sending the breath into the belly. Exhaling it out, feeling the low back release. Spending a couple of extra breaths focused on the sacral region of the body. Just noticing, non-judgmentally. Shifting awareness into the chest and across the shoulders, into the hands, just feeling overcome with softness. Feeling the back of the head connected to the floor. Feeling the neck release. Forehead soften. Space between the eyes smooths out. Feel the mouth opening softly, the tongue just resting gently behind the teeth, allowing the jaw to release. And slowly bringing awareness back into the body by wiggling the toes and fingers, rotating the wrists from side to side. Maybe turning the head back and forth. And bringing attention back to the breath, breathing a little deeper. Lifting the arms on the next inhale and placing them behind the head. Just coming into a full body stretch. On your next exhale, just rolling onto the left side of the body, using the left arm as a pillow. And then slowly coming up to Sukhasana. Placing the hands on top of the knees and sitting up nice and tall with the chin parallel to the floor. Bring the hands to heart center and just begin rubbing them back and forth. Replacing some of the lost energy. Place them over the eyes, open the eyes. Pat down anywhere in the body that there's tightness, stiffness, or that needs some release. And then slowly bring the hands back to heart center. Thank you very much for joining the class today. As always, I really appreciate you coming and I hope that you enjoyed it. For anyone who has any questions, comments, concerns, I'm always available via messenger or email, or I'll stay a couple minutes after class if there's anything you'd like to ask me. I also have some classes available online. I run several different classes a week, as well as private online and in-person classes. So if you feel interested in any of those, feel free to let me know. Thank you very much for coming. Namaste.